Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode is the top 5 best linebackers according to analytics. And by linebackers, I'm speaking, of course, pursuit linebackers, off-ball linebackers, whatever the term you want to use. I personally prefer pursuit linebackers because that's what these guys usually do. They pursue the ball carrier in whatever form that takes. And the way we're going to judge the production profiles for these players, or at least how we're going to get to the top 5, is we're going to look at production, age, and athleticism traits. Specifically, the speed score, which is the 40-yard dash measured against mass density from NFLDraftScout.com, if they actually report what their speed score is. The speed score, honestly, is a big part of finding a linebacker that has the potential to be an all-pro linebacker or a Pro Bowl linebacker. You will not find many great linebackers that were slow compared to their peers, at least in the last 20 years. That just isn't really the case. There are occasionally some guys here and there who were not the fastest who became successful players, and that's where we get into the production side of things. And when it comes to production and linebackers, the most statistically relevant data or metric I've found is solo tackle market share production. And you may be going, solo tackle market share, what the heck is that? And I've never heard of that, which I'm surprised nobody else talks about it. But solo tackle market share is essentially you take an individual defensive statistic, in this case solo tackles, and you divide it by the team's solo tackles. And when you do that, you end up with a number, which is their market share. So if you had a linebacker that had 50 solo tackles on a team with 500 solo tackles, then that linebacker had 10% market share. It only becomes relevant when you do this over and over and over again. I think my data set in particular has over 1,000 plus linebackers since the 1996 NFL draft class. And then you're able to see what the all-pro linebackers did, what the Pro Bowl linebackers did, and then we'll get into a couple of the statistical thresholds, I guess, when it comes to all-pro linebackers, Pro Bowl linebackers, and then, of course, just plain starting linebackers. But that is really going to form the basis of this top 5. It's based in how good their solo tackle market share production is, how good their speed market share, at least not speed market share, but what their speed score is, and then of course looking at age. Most of these guys don't have age as a knockout factor, so but that's how we're going to get to the list. And now let's get to number 5. At number 5, we have Jack Shichi, linebacker from Wisconsin. Based on his height and weight, according to NFLDraftScout.com, he's 6'1", 233 pounds with a 4.79 40-yard dash. Based on his solo tackle market share production, he put up a 96.06 overall solo tackle score. Based on the data I've done since the 1996 NFL draft class, 100% of multiple all-pro linebackers since the 1996 NFL draft class had at least a solo tackle market share score of 90 or higher, with the Pro Bowl threshold being 77 or higher. And that's really good for Jack Shichi. I mean, that 96.06 is incredible, actually. But the reason he's number 5 on this list is because of his speed score. Only put up a 29.63 overall speed score. That doesn't exactly hit all pro thresholds for speed, nor does it hit Pro Bowl thresholds for speed. So Jack Shichi is someone that I wouldn't exactly count out completely. Again, speed scores are preliminary numbers. I mean, they're not things that you should just take as fact at this point. But at least the initial reporting of that speed score is not exactly the most favorable score ever. But he does have good production. He is someone that I think can become a long-term starter. There's many linebackers that don't exactly have amazing speed for their size, but do have very good other sort of athletic traits. And I'm hoping that that's what Jack Shichi is. But ultimately, we'll see what happens. I mean, he's number 5. He's not exactly someone that, based on this data profile, is going to end up being an all-pro player. But he does at least have that production, which is a good indicator for potential in general. You know, regardless of athleticism, it's a good indicator of potential success at the NFL level, and we'll see what happens once the combine comes, and of course once the season starts. At number 4, we have Traven Scales, linebacker from Indiana. When it comes to height and weight, he's 6 foot, 230 pounds with a 4.79 40-yard dash. Based on his production, he put up a 95.99 solo tackle market share score, which is pretty darn good, almost pretty much as good as Jack Shichi. And the reason he's number 4 on this list is because he has a better speed score of 29.70 out of 100 versus Jack Shichi's 29.63 out of 100. But again, 29.70 out of 100 for Traven Scales is not exactly All-Pro or Pro Bowl level when it comes to his speed. Does have very good production. It is an indicator that this is a guy that could potentially become a starter, so he's a name to be familiar with at the very least. But it just isn't getting it done when it comes to, athleticism. So again, he's another guy that we'll definitely see what happens with him long term. I remember seeing a bit of his film last year, and he had some interesting things on film. Not the most amazing guy ever, but we'll see what happens this year. But he's definitely a guy to keep track of based on his production and what he does at the combine, because he could improve on these numbers, definitely. That's always the case. So we'll see what happens, but he's number 4 on this list because of that great production, but not necessarily having great speed overall. At number 3, we have Traven Howard, linebacker out of TCU. Based on his height and weight, according to NFLDraftScout.com, he's 6 foot, 212 pounds with a 4.63 40-yard dash. Based on his production, he had a 92.40 solo tackle market share score, which is very, very good. Hits all the marks in terms of all-pro potential based on his production. But ultimately, his speed score just doesn't really get it done. It only has a 38.72 overall speed score. And a big reason for that is because he's 6 foot, 212 pounds. So that 4.63 is impressive speed, but if he was 230 pounds, it would be impressive. But the fact that he's 212 pounds, because again, the speed score is based on mass density, how big you are for your speed. And unfortunately, having a 4.63 doesn't really help you out much if you're only 212 pounds. So, but again, we'll see what happens with him. He is someone that I have seen some good things on film with him in general. Good production, like I said, based on his production profile. And if he comes into the combine, he's 225 pounds or 230 pounds, and he runs 4.63, that'd be amazing. That would bump him up considerably. But the bottom line is he hits the production marks. He just doesn't quite have elite speed. But I will be excited to see where he goes and what happens in the future with him. At number 2, we have Micah Kiser, linebacker from Virginia. Based on height and weight, he's 6'1", 240 pounds with a 4.76 40-yard dash. Based on his production, he put up a 95.43 solo tackle market share score, which hits all the marks you're looking for when it comes to all-pro potential, etc. But unfortunately, only has a speed score of 49.63 out of 100, which doesn't quite hit Pro Bowl level or All-Pro level for his size. He is fairly big guy. Having a 49.63 speed score is not necessarily horrible. It takes him out of Pro Bowl potential, All-Pro potential, all those other kind of potentials, I guess, when it comes to his speed. So very good production though. He's another guy that film-wise I was impressed by his film last year. He was one of the linebackers that stuck out big time, and he's a guy you should be familiar with. We'll see what happens at the combine. We'll see what happens this season, of course, with him. But he's number 2 on this list because he has very good production, has at least average speed with that good production, and that's a good indicator for a potential starter at the next level. At number 1, you have Ulysses Gilbert III, linebacker out of Akron. When it comes to height and weight, he's 6 foot, 225 pounds with a 4.56 40-yard dash. Based on his production, he put up an 86.35 solo tackle market share score, which hits at least the Pro Bowl threshold when it comes to that particular metric, which is very good. And also it's a score that he could improve this season into All-Pro territory if he produces like that. And based on his athleticism, he put up an 81.41 speed score, which is really impressive and hits at least the All-Pro threshold when it comes to speed for his size. Gilbert is, in many ways, a repeating trend in the MAC where you have guys like Jatavis Brown, Blair Brown, like a lot of a lot of Browns actually. But Gilbert has the production like Blair Brown, like Jatavis Brown. Jatavis Brown was a little bit more productive. And he also has the speed of those two types of players. He's a little closer to Jatavis Brown because, he's 6 foot 225, which is Jatavis Brown was about 5'11", 225-ish. So there's some similarities from that standpoint. But it'll be very interesting. He's number one in this list because of that speed score and those other factors, but that is why he's number one, and I'll be very excited to see what he does next year. This concludes the top 5 best linebackers in the 2018 NFL Draft class based on analytics. My name is James Coburn. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this with friends and family as well if you get a chance. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.